Tariffs resulting from the U.S.-China trade war and Brexit are adding costs for small and medium-sized businesses doing business in Asia and in the U.K. Blockchain-enabled global payments company Veem is covering up to $10,000 U.S. on behalf of its clients. For a closer look at the business model and growth strategy, we're joined by Veem CEO Marwan Forzley. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Small businesses have been telling you they're struggling with tariff costs. How high are those costs when it comes to tariffs, the impact on small businesses?
Yeah, let me give you a little bit of context on what Veem is. So we make it really simple for businesses to pay and get paid around the world. It's kind of like PayPal for businesses. Customers use us as a wire replacement service, ends up being cheaper, faster than bank wire. So because we have about 150,000 businesses that use us. We survey them all the time, we talk to them, and there's quite a bit of concerns around the tariffs, and specifically the uncertainty of the tariffs. What is it going to do to their business? Think of tariffs like a new tax to these guys, and they're trying to figure out what to do with this new tax. And so they're thinking about, how do I reconfigure my supply chain? How do I deal with the new tax? Do I pass it to the customer? Do I take the hit and it affects my margin? And so given all the uncertainty, they're looking for help. And that's why we put together this tariff relief program to help them out.
And your company itself is a small office in Shanghai as well. So you've got feet on the ground. When you hear from these small businesses regarding these issues surrounding China, what are the main concerns for some of those businesses?
Yeah, what to do with the new tariff? What amount do I have to pay? Do I pass it on to the customer? Do I take the hit and it affects my margin? How do I find new suppliers around the world? I don't have resources to find new suppliers. These are common themes that the businesses talk about.
Is there any particular kind of company that ends up being more affected by some of those issues than others?
Some, depending on the sector that you're in. Some are affected more than others. But in general, there's fairly wide concerns around the impact of tariffs on themselves, on their business, and more generally on the economy. Because, you know, the small business is a key contributor to GDP and employment numbers. And I think these guys are not equipped to deal with these new taxes that come to them, and it's sudden because they're not used to it. They have to deal with it on the spot.
Now, we talk a lot about when it comes to something like tariffs and who pays the bill for that with retail businesses, right? Are they going to pass it on to the consumer? Or are they going to eat the cost themselves? We don't usually talk as much about what's happening behind the scenes. What puts you in a position where you can assist with those bills on the tariffs with clients?
Yeah, we're always surveying customers. We're talking to them. We're looking at data. We notice patterns because we're dealing with payments around the world. And so we can have points of view on what's going on with the macro environment, and that becomes helpful to the business. Also because we operate in 110 countries and we have customers in various parts of the world. And so customers, when they're looking for different types of suppliers, for example, we can help them look at different markets to get them, a new set of suppliers to their business.
So is it possible, like, just to say that some of these small businesses you're working with in the past, if they were trying to move money or do different things around the world, like they might go to their local bank to do this, and now they're working more with you just because there's more flexibility, sort of different pricing, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it's all of the above. These businesses are not resourced like big companies where they have planners that think of their supply chain. So they look for modern tools to work with, and we're one of the tools that they have access to, in addition to other things that they would research on their own.
All right, and so I guess, like, you don't use Bitcoin, but
No.
But just, I guess, in terms of blockchain and what that means in terms of how it works and where cryptocurrencies actually fit into that storyline. What would you say about that?
Yeah, so when we actually move money from one country to another, we have a concept called multi-rail, and think of it like a router that routes between different ways of moving money. We use our own bank accounts in a number of markets. We use the blockchain. We use SWIFT. We use different payment providers. Think of the blockchain as a way to cross from one currency to another without going through intermediary banks. It's a really interesting, really clever way to bypass intermediaries. And when you do that, you're really cutting down costs and you're simplifying the process and you're reducing time for the customer. The other thing that's interesting about the blockchain, you do it 24/7. There's no banking hours. And then you can track transactions to quite a bit of detail. Because as the money moves from one country to another, you almost watch the money go real time in front of you. It's kind of like, when you order an Uber, you see the driver coming to you. It's
Right.
the same idea. You watch money coming to you. And that's something that's brought to you by new technology that's different than what you get from existing established payment methods.
So you have a presence in Silicon Valley. You also have a presence in Ottawa, which obviously has a pretty large tech community as well. Are you finding that some of the issues that some of your Canadian customers would have are similar to those U.S. customers that you have?
Yeah, I mean, customers from Canada, from Europe, from the U.S., they all have common issues to them. They're all looking for simple ways to pay and get paid. They're all looking to figure out how to deal with uncertain issues that come their way, tariffs, Brexit. They all have common patterns to them, and they find Veem to be a helpful tool that's going to help them not only with the mechanics of moving money, but generally with the way to run their business.
And what's it been like for you running a business in expanding in Canada, also having a presence in the U.S.? How has it been for you operating in the Canadian market?
Canada is a great market to be in, and so we've been focusing on Canada not only to have an office here, but to grow the footprint on the Canada side. And the business has been awesome, and we redoubled the size of the network, the accounts on the platform, almost in 1 year. So growth has been great.
And how does it work with regulators here? And I'd assume there are some traditional Canadian banks that would have done some of these services for customers in Canada in the past. You're able to jump into this market and just get down to business, essentially?
Yeah, we are a money service business regulated in the U.S. and every state. And we help our businesses with a simple process. That's what really attracts them to Veem, the simplicity of the experience. That's the primary driver. The second sort of attributes are cost savings, tracking, transparency. But the fundamental thing, this is a really simple experience for the businesses to use Veem to move money around the world. And that's why they come and join the platform.
All right, Marwan, thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Marwan Forzley, the CEO of Veem, joining us here in studio. And